Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. If all's going well, you're viewing my screen, which has our agenda for today. We get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings at this time, 8 o'clock Central, to review strategies, share success stories, talk tips, but ultimately we're here to support each of you. On today's topic, we are revisiting a slightly revised reference sheet which covers the 3 different campaigns. And it's not unusual that, especially for our new white label partners, they get a little bit confused of the differences and what to do. So we have cleaned this up and we're going to go through it today. It'll be interactive. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and post it into the Q&A, question and answer of Zoom. So our title is, we're going to discuss the 3 white label partner campaigns. And again, this has a revision date of today. As a reminder, there is no upfront cost to be a white label partner. White label partners have the flexibility to market under their branding and set their own pricing. So this is crucial. I talk often, and we're adding lots. We probably added 4 or 5 new white label partners overnight last night, but I talked to many prospective white label partners, and they really like this approach. They control the pricing, they control the branding, but we'll take care of the implementation for them, so that is not a burden to them. We set up a white label Dropbox, so each of you should have access to your white label Dropbox. If you don't have access to that, you can't find it, you have questions about that, you want to reach out to support. And you'll see here at the bottom, the best way to reach out to support is to email us or text us. Now, when you text us, you could just text us the question, or you could say, hey, give me a call, and then we'll give you a call and work through whatever needs to be done. I was on the phone late into the evening yesterday with a number of you that had questions, which is just fun. All right, so let's go through the 3 campaigns. Campaign 1, campaign 2, campaign 3. We're going to start with campaign 1. One of our newest white label partners, I was visiting with her, is actually yesterday afternoon, not yesterday evening, and she was just a little bit confused. And so she's got 7 new clients that she's enrolling today. 7, which is a great first day, first week for any of us, but it's important to understand how these campaigns are set up. So campaign 1, access to capital. What is it? If we had to just briefly summarize what it is, and again, you can go into your Dropbox and find a lot deeper descriptions, understand, but just at a high level, what is the access to capital? Your clients will receive a guaranteed capital raise. It's a $100,000 minimum. I was talking to her on the phone yesterday, and she said, oh, it's a maximum 100,000? No, it's a $100,000 minimum, guaranteed. She said, well, what's the maximum? Well, there is no maximum capital raise. It's whatever the client wants and qualifies for. But what we promise is a minimum of 100,000 for clients that enroll in access to capital. How much is the upfront cost for access to capital? Do they have to pay a lot of money? Do they have to pay any money? No, there's no upfront cost for access to capital, not a penny. And then, well, how long does it take for clients to get funded? They're going to receive their first tranche of financing, normally within just a few days. We guarantee them their first tranche of financing. Now, you and I know how much they receive for their first tranche financing will vary based upon their circumstances. They're going to get their money in a few days, and then they're going to pay you your deposit. Well, how much is the deposit? Well, it's up to you, right? You can make it a refundable deposit, a non-refundable. Normally it's $2,500, but you could make it more or less. And then you get paid your performance fees. Well, how much is the performance? How much are the performance fees? I don't know. You set them. It's up to you as the white label partner. You control how much your clients pay. So that blends over to the next point. Well, how much do you make per client? I don't know. It's up to you. You set your pricing. There's 2 normal triggers for comp. One is the deposit, which again, you can make refundable or non-refundable. Normally it's going to be $2,500, but you can make it more, you could make it less. And then there is the performance fee. You set what it is. Normally it's at 10%. You could make it more, you could make it less. So you can see where when we talk about 12,500 gross income on average per client, and that's actually the minimum, then that's calculated off of the 2,500 and the 10%. But again, you could make it more, you can make it less. Tony, I see you have a question. Go ahead and type that question into the Q&A so we can address it, please. Now, there are technically two variations to access to capital, and both of which are listed under Schedule A of your white label license agreement. They're exactly the same program. The only difference is when does the client pay? So you could have the client pay the $2,500 up front, which we used to call that capital ready. Now we often call that the guaranteed financing, but it's the same program. It's up to you when you want them to pay the $2,500. Everything that I described here is no upfront cost. But if you want them to pay the $2,500 up front, you can collect it up front. We have one of our new white label partners yesterday, and he signed up his first client, and the client literally handed him $2,500 of cash, not check or credit card or wire transfer, just gave him $2,500 of cash. So in that case, we treat that client a little bit differently. So instead of being access to capital, we call that client capital ready, or what we refer to now as the guaranteed financing. Client receives the same program. The contract is different. You'll see the different contract in your white label Dropbox, but just don't be confused. If you want them to pay the $2,500 up front, fine with us. It's up to you and them. Then we call that capital ready or guaranteed financing. If you want to defer the $2,500 until after their first tranche of financing, then we call that access to capital. But other than that, the two operate the same. It's just when is the deposit collected. Any questions that anyone has on campaign? Well, I didn't get to implementation process, so sorry. Let me do that and then we'll get to questions. So how do we implement the white label access to capital? Well, first you get the client under contract, because the contract is between you and them. And so we've provided you a template. You can modify it. Again, you can change the deposit. You can make it refundable or non-refundable. You can change the performance fee. Of course, you put your contact information on it. This template is in your white label Dropbox, right, that we provided to you. Don't have your Dropbox, contact support, as we talked about, and we'll make sure that we get that for you. So the first thing, of course, you need to do is get that template set up. Then you get the client to sign the contract, because you always want to have a signed contract with the client that clarifies what their responsibilities are, what they're expecting. You can take that template and you can set it up in like an e-signature software like Adobe or DocuSign if you wish. You can work with Scott Stroud or whomever you want to set it up as online terms and conditions. That's up to you. But the bottom line is the client needs to be under contract, because if you don't have them under a written contract, we could go raise $1 million for them and they may say that they don't owe you any money. So it's good for them to know what's expected of them, and you have some recourse if they don't pay you. All right, so step one is get the client under contract. And then step two, and sometimes this is a point of confusion, is that you want to go ahead and get them to complete the funding proposal application. You will also find that in your white label Dropbox. That's what we need to go get their first tranche of financing. Now, for example, for Quincy yesterday, Quincy accepted or collected the $2,500 in cash from his new client. So in that case, we don't need to go chase after the first tranche financing, because the client has already paid the deposit. If the client hasn't paid the deposit, then we need to focus on getting that first tranche of financing so you can get paid right away your deposit. So ultimately, as a white label partner, you want to get the client under contract, get the application completed. You're going to upload both of those into your white label Dropbox, and you need to let us know that the client is ready to process. And you can let us know either by emailing us or by texting us. So now let me pause and see what questions do any of you have regarding the white label access to capital. Again, this is not meant to be a very in-depth discussion of the program. There's other resources in your Dropbox, but I just want to make sure at a high level, you understand this is one of the campaigns and where to find the resources and the steps to implement. Anyone have any questions on that? So it's great for the client. They're going to get money, minimum of 100,000. They have no upfront cost. They have no risk. And for you, it's great because you know you're going to receive at least 12,500 from each client. Any questions, comments, concerns on that? All right, so Tony still has his hand up, but he's not typed into the Q&A. So Tony, I'm going to lower your hand. And you need to go ahead and type the question in, right, to the Q&A. All right, so let's move on to campaign number 2. Very much different, very much different. Now we're talking about the Express Startup Business Package. This is getting a business set up properly. We provide them a unique business commercial address. We take care of getting their entity filed with the Secretary of State. The grant pays for the filing fees, so they don't have to pay for that. Get their EIN, provides geographic access to the Chapman Fund. We've had separate training going deep into this. So my goal isn't to do product training, but it's to help you understand in terms of the 3 different campaigns, how this one is different. So how do you make money off of this campaign, off of this offering? Well, you, again, set the pricing. It's up to you how much you want to charge the participant. You know you're going to submit $249.99 to us. Anything that you collect from the client above that is your profit. Now, this does not replace or compete with access to capital. So you could have clients that enroll in access to capital. Once they fill out their funding proposal app, on the top of it, it asks about business information. You could see that they don't have a business properly set up. So then you could pitch this, or alternatively, you could go out to the market with the startup business package, get them enrolled in this, and then enroll them in your access to capital. So you can start with either one. My point in saying that is that you can earn income from both campaigns, the startup package as well as access to capital, but there's no requirement clients do both. They could do one or the other. Implementation process is much different here, and it's simpler. So you decide how much you want to charge the client. It's up to you. You collect it from the client. You forward our portion. Anything above that is your profit off of it. You'll just email or text support. We need to know the client's name and email address and confirmation that you submitted our portion so we can match that to the client, and then we'll get the client set up. We'll handle the implementation. So who has questions on campaign 2, the startup business package? Very valuable, very important that a business be set up properly, and an easy way for you to earn extra income. You have some of you like Alfred who will add a 1 in front, so he's charging them about $1,250. So he's making about $1,000 for each enrollment. Some of you are just passing it along, not marking it up. That's okay. Some of you are adding just $100 or $200. That's fine. And we have a handful of you that's giving this away for free as a way to develop client relationships, and that's fine too. All right, now let's move to campaign 3. Campaign 3 is a focused effort to get funding specifically through an SBA 7A Express loan. We have a special relationship with the bank. It's fast. We're getting same-day approvals. They're funding in 10 days. Now, granted, it's 10 business days. So when I was speaking with the new white label partner yesterday afternoon, she's like, well, can I do both? Can I do the SBA Express loan and the access to capital? There's no reason to do that. You would normally do one or the other. Now, we've had a few occasions where people would enroll in the SBA program and then pivot over to access to capital. So they switch out, but you wouldn't need to do both. That could be confusing. You could do both, but I wouldn't recommend it. It gets confusing. So when we're doing the access to capital program, we're helping build financial literacy, of course. We're building out the client's loan package, and we're helping them become credible enough for a minimum of 100,000. You and I know that. On the SBA Express, the loan package is different. It's simplified. It's focused specifically on getting this type of funding, which is fast-tracked. We have one of you who enrolled 3 new clients yesterday in the SBA Express. So she went out, got them under contract for this, our portion, which we'll talk about in a moment. And so now we're implementing. So when we implement an SBA Express loan a client, we're focused just on the documentation needed for it, which is a subset. It's not as much as needed for the general access to capital. All right, so the SBA Express loan, the max, and some people get mad at us for this. I've had people curse at us for this, but I can't help it. This program has a hard cap of 150,000. That's as much as they'll do. Now it's great terms, 120 months. So in other words, a 10-year repayment term, low interest rate, and all of that, but it maxes at 150. So could we do this as the first tranche of capital and then enroll the client in access to capital for more? Sure. Same could be said for the Startup Business Package with the Chapman Fund. The Chapman Fund will not move off this. This is a hard cap. They will not go above $250,000. I get people that get mad at me. They curse at me. They say ugly things because they want more than 250,000. Well, maybe we just use the Chapman Fund for the first 250,000, but the Chapman Fund's not going to deliver more than $250,000. This program here is going to max at 150. So we could use it as the first 150 and then keep going, but we're not going to get more than 150 out of this program, nor are we going to get more than 250 out of the Chapman Fund. So if that makes you mad, I'm sorry, but those are the caps of those 2 different offerings. Now, again, we don't have a maximum capital raise for access to capital. All right, so with the SBA Express loan, so this again is a targeted process to create a loan package specifically for this. So for example, the business plan for the SBA Express is a simple 1-page business plan. That's all the lender wants is 1 page versus a full, what you call more traditional business plan that we create for access to capital. So it's expedited. We're getting, I mentioned this, same day approvals. And, of course, you realize we don't approve or decline loans. You don't, we don't, the lender does. But the lender, we're often seeing approvals in about 2 hours, which is awesome. It's taking 10 days to fund, but you don't want to misrepresent that. Those are 10 business days. So for example, we have Monday coming up as of this recording. Monday, I believe, is a national holiday. The bank, I suspect, I don't know for sure, but I suspect they'll be closed. So that would not count as a day. Unfortunately, weekends don't count either. We don't need much of a credit requirement for the SBA. I mentioned low interest in payments. There's no risk to the client. And yes, startups qualify. And you've heard me talk about this, but I'll just go through it in a minute. A lot of people use the term startups inappropriately, so we're kind of drawn into using it inappropriately. Startup, according to the SBA, means any business less than 2 years old. So that's the technical definition. I use this just to match what most people say, but just for clarification, we can get the SBA Express loan for a brand new business. They could be 1 day old. There's not a time in business requirement for the SBA Express loan. You might have heard different. You might have heard, oh, no, you have to be in business 2 years. Well, it's not true. Now, the lender might require that. The SBA is not the lender. The SBA is the guarantor. I was talking to a wonderful couple yesterday who are clients. Both Tiffany and her husband, Lawrence, are both clients for 2 different capital raises. So I'm talking to Tiffany, and she is so confident in what she knows about SBA loans, but she's frankly wrong. She told me a number of things that was wrong. And so I was polite and I said, well, I used to work for the SBA and we do this all the time. And respectfully, Tiffany, you're wrong in these things that you're saying and assuming. But some people will think they're right when they're not right. And she was respectful. We had a good conversation, so I'm not making light of that. But you just have to be prepared. There's a lot of people that are financially illiterate. A lot of people think they know things that they don't know. And sometimes they're not willing to hear new information that's accurate. But the bottom line is, yes, startups can qualify. So we have the grant allocation, so it reduces the cost for participants for the SBA Express from the normal 2,500. So 2,500 minus 1,500 leaves 1,000. So all they have to pay is 1,000. But the great news is we split that up, half paid at enrollment, half after they get their SBA funding. Anything that you want to mark it up above that is your profit, but you'll see that there's a couple different ways we can approach it for you to make money. You can just send us the lead and we'll just pay $100 if that's what you want. But more common as a white label partner, you'll set your own pricing. You could mark up over the $9.99. You could add a performance fee if you want, because there is no performance fee from our end on the SBA Express. There is on the Access to Capital. But if you want to add a performance fee to the SBA Express for your clients, you're welcome to do so, and you keep 100% of that. What is the implementation process for SBA Express? We need to know the client's name and email if you're wanting to just refer them off and make an easy $100. But most of you are closers as white label partners. So most of you will get them contracted using the contract that's in your white label partner packet. You'll collect whatever you want from them and then just get us our portion to get started. All right, so now let's field questions. So Frankie asked about this. So I emailed this to every one of you this morning. I emailed you a reminder for today's training, and I sent this as a PDF. So Frankie, you should have it, as well as every other white label partner, as well as every regional vice president. All right, Chuck's asking, what's the difference between regional vice presidents and white label partners? So regional vice presidents are our leadership team. Our goals have one RVP per state in the country. There's no cost to be an RVP. And they build out a team of white label partners and earn 2.5% overrides off of the performance of their team. All right, Timothy's got a follow-up question. RVPs, are they treated differently? So yes, our regional vice presidents have some extra perks. So again, they get overrides based upon their clients, off their white label partners' clients. And then we get together. So a number of you are RVPs. All of you that hit your numbers for the month of September, you should have received your invitation. We're all going to San Antonio next weekend. We actually won't have our training on Friday. All of us are flying in, and we're getting your airline tickets. So if you don't have the airline tickets, you don't have it booked yet, let me know. But we're all flying in Friday morning to San Antonio. We have the hotel rooms reserved on the Riverwalk. We're gonna have a great time together. So RVPs get together and share best practices and socialize on our budget. So any of you that are regional vice presidents that hit your numbers in September, you should have been contacted by our travel agency, and hopefully you'll be able to join us for that all expense paid trip to San Antonio next weekend. If you've not received that, let us know. But again, that's for regional vice presidents that hit their numbers in September. Okay, so Frankie found it. Jeremy says, good morning. Good morning, Jeremy. Who else has questions on the white label partner 3 campaigns? So Susan's asking, and you're right, Susan. So we've cleaned this up a little bit. So that's why we have a new revision date. It's cleaned up a bit and best reflects current processes. So I would replace the prior one with this one, and everyone was emailed this morning. So it's up to you. Do you want to focus on bringing people on to the Access to Capital? That's fine. It's pretty easy, right? Guaranteed capital, no upfront cost. Some of you like to go out to the marketplace focusing on the startup business package. And again, these two blend together nicely. So you might start with Access to Capital, get their app and realize they need this, or you might go out to the marketplace with this, and then you can convert nearly all of them to Access to Capital. That's up to you. Some of you really like the SBA Express loan program. You can do any combination of these 3, doesn't matter to us. Sarah's asking about, as a white label, talking about performance measure. So yes, Sarah. So as a white label partner, our goal is to work with each of you to help at least 8 clients. That's the minimum goal per month. Any enrollments in any of these 3 count towards that. So if you have someone enroll in the SBA Express program, counts as one of the 8. Someone enrolls in the business startup package, counts as one of the 8. You have someone that enrolls in the access to capital, it counts as one of the 8. So they're all treated and weighted evenly. Great questions this morning. Who else has any questions, comments, concerns on what we do, how we help people? You know, at a high level, you and I are technical advisors, and we help small businesses do 3 things: improve their financial literacy, that's number 1. Number 2, build a lender compliant loan package. And number 3, meet the credibility standards to be able to get the funding that they want and they need. So these are different campaigns to work towards that goal. Now, I realize there's other things, like we didn't talk about the 60-day credit sweep. We didn't talk about the collateral support program. There's different resources that exist to help clients get from where they're at to where they need to be. But if I were you, I would focus on these 3 campaigns. And if we see that the client has needs along the way, then we can coordinate and help them. All right, so Paulie has some interested network contacts from LinkedIn that want to form new businesses. Yeah, so Paulie right here is the campaign that you would want to use. So again, there's additional training and descriptions of these programs within your Dropbox and in the past Zoom trainings in our YouTube library. Our goal today wasn't to have an in-depth discussion on each of the programs, but to make sure that you were aware of the 3 different campaigns and give you a quick overview so you can better compare and contrast them. But yes, Paulie, it's great. Let's get some folks enrolled. Anyone else have any questions, comments, concerns? So yes, Timothy, you should have received contact from the travel agency about San Antonio next weekend. If you can join us, we'll get the flights booked and the hotel there at the Marriott. If you can't make it, then we're just doing a cash out for those of you that can't make it. It's kind of short notice, but we wanted to thank those of you that were successful in the month of September. We'll probably do this monthly. So those of you that are RVPs that have that meet the goal for October will most likely take a trip thereafter. If you're not an RVP, but you're interested in becoming one, again, just contact support. There's no cost to be an RVP. We need to see if your state is available. And if so, you're welcome to be one of our leadership team. Any questions, comments, concerns? Jack's asking, yeah, so Jack, normal schedule next week, Monday through Thursday. We'll be together each morning. Just Friday, we won't be on Zoom because most of us will be on planes or traveling to San Antonio. Again, anyone interested in becoming an RVP, just email us or text us and we can help you get set up. Cameron asked, which campaign provides funding the fastest? That's a fair question. Well, I would rule out any of you that have gone to law school or gone to paralegal programs. You've learned this process of test taking, right? So sometimes you rule out the answers that can't be accurate. So Cameron asked, which campaign provides the fastest funding? Well, we know that the answer to Cameron's question can't be campaign 2 because this is the setup, the foundation. It's not really a funding program in itself, although I know it provides geographic access to the Chapman Fund. So then Cameron's question could be restated. Which is faster to get funding, access to capital or the SBA Express? The answer would be the white label access to capital because we're at 5 to 7 days. That's the fastest to get funding, Cameron. The SBA Express takes how long? Takes 10 business days. So the fastest to funding is access to capital. Good question, Cameron. All right, well, I think we've got it covered. Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll get this recording out to everyone before Monday. And we hope to see you back Monday morning, 8 o'clock Central on our Zoom, daily Zoom. Thanks, everyone. Bye.